What's up guys, it's Drifts and Lifts here. Alright, so today's video is going to be a little short one, but I just acquired some really rare Volvo parts that I really wanted to show you guys. So we're going to do a little walk around the garage and I'm just going to show off all the rare Volvo parts that I've acquired over the years. So just recently I bought a car from my good friend Ryan Pilley. And Ryan actually had the car for a span of about 10 years. He slowly collected some cool parts for it. And eventually he kind of just gave up on the project. It started to get some rust holes in it. And his motivation for the 740 kind of dwindled. And one day he just messaged me. He was like, yo, come pick up the car. It's yours for a pretty darn good price. So it came with a lot of pretty sweet parts on it. I'm gonna show you guys a couple things that came on the car, as well as some other stuff kicking around my garage. Right here we have two of the rarest parts in my garage, I would say. And I'm super stoked to finally acquire a real one of these. So we'll start off with the dopest piece right here. This is a Volvo 740 sedan R Sport wing. So from what I could gather, these were like a Volvo accessory that you could buy from certain dealers, I believe. And this spoiler here sits just right on the trunk. I actually have a fake version of this spoiler on the gold car right over there. So Red Block Society actually sells a remake of this wing out of fiberglass. So those are pretty sweet, but finding the OEM foam ones are definitely very hard to come by these days. So just, you know, the look of this spoiler is just perfect. It really sets off the Volvo 740 sedan, makes it look so much more sporty than it would without this wing. The 740 sedan is a little bland looking, you know, it's got some interesting lines on it as far as like the rear window slope and the trunk goes. The trunk is pretty much just like a giant table. But yeah, this wing really changes the look of those cars. And I don't know, in my opinion, it's one of the coolest Volvo accessories that they ever really came with. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked. If you guys want to purchase this, I'm gonna be selling it for $400. Yeah, just let me know. I already have one on the gold car and I don't have another sedan to put this on. So it's gonna go up for sale. But got a real OEM Volvo part number on it right here. As you can see, Volvo 1188283. Let me know in the comments if you guys have came across these and you know where you found it and how you got your hands on it. Because at least for me here in British Columbia, Canada, this was so hard to find and I've only came across one or two of them in the last 10 years that I've been into Volvos. So I'm gonna put that down now. Second, here we got another type of spoiler. So this is actually the SE wing. So these would this is actually like a more simple version, a less aggressive version of the R Sport wing. It looks really similar, it just doesn't quite have the same amount of, you know, wing that comes off. It's about an inch or two shorter than the other one. Still really cool. So this actually came on Volvo 740 SEs, which was only in 1991. I'm gonna be selling this one as well. So if you guys wanna buy this one, just hit me up on Instagram. As you can see, it has been painted before, so the paint's cracking off and it's kind of gross, but I'm sure you could just sand it off and repaint it. It would probably look pretty good. They're both in fairly good condition. You know, the factory foam is pretty sturdy. Even if you like bumped it into the wall, I think it would survive pretty well, at least compared to the fiberglass ones. So next on the list of rare Volvo parts, we got, honestly, I said that's the coolest part I've ever owned, the most rare Volvo parts. So what we have here is a OEM, this is made by Momo, but for Volvo. This is called a Volvo R Sport Roma steering wheel. So these, I'm not sure, I should have done a little more research before making this video. I believe it was the same kind of idea as the spoiler. You could buy them probably as like an upgraded accessory from Volvo in some way. If you guys know what the deal with these steering wheels and the R Sport wings when they came out, like how you could get your hands on one, you know, where you'd find them, let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to know kind of where these came from and how people acquired them. But as you can see, it's really cool because it's got our little Volvo emblem built in to the steering wheel. This one isn't in the greatest shape. As you can see, like there's some dry cracking on it and stuff, but you know, it could be worse. There's a little bit of stitching missing up here and stuff, but the wheel isn't bent. It seems to be in pretty darn good shape, so I'm pretty happy with it. So the cool thing is this piece right here pops off. if I'm careful with it, I don't want to wreck it. So that'll just pop off like that. And then behind that is just your typical racing steering wheel. You know, boom, boom. We got our Volvo Prancing Moose badge right there on the horn button. And as you guys can see on the back, it is actually made by Momo, made in Italy. So that's a real Momo wheel. Now the hub that this is mounted to, I'm not sure if this was like an OEM one that would have came with this wheel or if someone bought this aftermarket from Momo at some point. But I would wager to say that this wheel and hub setup came together. I don't really think that, you know, it's probably been on a car since back in the 80s or 90s when someone actually bought this for the car. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna be selling this as well, $400. These things go for a lot of money. I don't know if they actually sell on eBay for the $1,000 that people put them up for. I've seen mint ones on eBay for $1,000, but I don't know if they actually sell for that price. Maybe if someone's restoring the perfect Volvo, that might be, you know, worthwhile for them to buy something like this. But for your typical drift guy like me and you, you know, it's probably spending $1,000 on like a rare OEM steering wheel probably isn't the best purchase unless you got dollars flowing out your asshole. I would keep it and put it in one of my cars, but I already have all the steering wheels that I really like in all my cars, so I don't really need this thing. And, you know, throwing a couple more dollars back in the bank, not a bad idea. So anyways, guys, yeah, very, very cool. Big shout out to my friend Ryan for selling me the car. R Sport steering wheel, R Sport foam wing. This is so cool to see both of these things on one table. Okay, so now we're gonna walk around the garage and just show off a couple more just rare Volvo parts that I've acquired over the years. So let's just like take a look around. Let's just look around and see what we can find. Oh, I already see one rare Volvo part. This is a 3-inch MAF for an LH 2.2 car. What else we got around here? So another really rare part I got chilling on multiple of my cars is an aluminum 740 turbo diesel hood. So these hoods were 20 pounds lighter than the same hood in the steel version. And 20 pounds doesn't sound like a lot and it's nothing too crazy, but taking 20 pounds off the front of your car is actually a pretty good way to reduce the weight as well as improve your weight distribution. So I almost feel like when I put an aluminum hood on a car, I can just barely actually feel a bit of a difference. So I actually acquired 3 of these hoods over my travels over the last couple of years. They're really rare because 740 turbo diesels only came from 1983 to 1985, and they did not sell very many of them. You guys in Europe have a lot of these cars kicking around, but here in North America, Canada, and the States, I want to say they only made like maybe 5,000 of them, maybe less, honestly. I don't really know the exact numbers. Hey, if anybody knows those numbers, let me know in the comments how many turbo diesel 740s came around here. But it's a really tough thing to find, and I believe they went with the aluminum hood on that car because the turbo diesel engine was going to be a lot heavier than the red block engine, being an inline 6, full cast iron, etc. So I think they put these hoods on them just to save a little bit of weight. That would be my guess. But yeah, I actually traveled far and wide to get these hoods. I actually went, for this hood right here, I drove 11 hours all the way to Edmonton, Alberta, which is a whole nother province over. Shout out to Evan. He actually messaged me on Instagram and let me know he had an aluminum hood that he was down to trade. I was like, let's go for a little road trip and go pick up the aluminum hood. So the other aluminum hood is actually sitting up on that wall over there. That one I got in Washington. That was about a 5-hour drive down in Washington. Drove all the way there. So I've really traveled far and wide to get these aluminum hoods. And you know what's funny, guys, is that I didn't even know that these were a thing until just a couple of years ago. Someone informed me that the turbo diesels had an aluminum lightweight hood on them, and I was like mind blown. I didn't know this the whole time. So the moment I found out about it, I started just scouring Craigslist and Marketplace, just, you know, asking everybody so I could find some of these hoods because they're really cool in my opinion. You guys know how much of a weight reduction whore I am. I love taking weight out of my car. I think it's one of the best things you can do to a Volvo to make the overall performance much better. Well, not only just a Volvo, but any car. And yeah, once I found out you can get these things, I was on the hunt. So I also have one on the Gold car here. and you know, 20 less pounds, getting me closer to the goal weight that I had for this car of like 2,400 pounds, and we actually got below that. So yeah, pretty cool. Aluminum hoods, guys. If you can find them, definitely cop one, because it's a pretty cool performance part in my opinion. But yeah, let's take a little look. What else we got around here? This is actually a rare piece, guys. This spoiler on the trunk of this car is from a Volvo V90. So the last 2 years of the Volvo 960, they called the V90, 97 and 98. And I believe the V90, so the V would be the wagon, and then the S90 would be the sedan. So the V90s in 97 and 98 are the only cars that came with this little trunk lip for the wagons. So I managed to find one of these from Scandia Motors in Maple Ridge, a local Volvo shop around our town here. And yeah, it just gives a nice little extra bit of sportiness to it. Just makes it not quite as plain as it would be otherwise, right? Okay, what else we got? Okay, we're running low on the cool Volvo parts. I think we're getting pretty close to the end of it. Oh, check this out. These aren't super rare. A lot of you guys probably have these, but these Volvo mud flaps were a factory option. And from my experience, not a whole lot of cars came with them. You know, I guess it would be a person wanting to add them on the list of options when they're ordering one of these cars from the factory. But you know, you can't beat it. I love the look of mud flaps. I think it looks like more of a rally performance car. I just think they're dope. And I guess it actually saves mud from spraying. I don't know. So I got some on the sedan over there. I got some on the wagon. And I also have a spare set sitting over there because when you run mud flaps on a lowered 740, every time you go over like a speed bump or something like that, the mud flap drags across the speed bump, and slowly but surely they wear down, and then your mud flaps won't be as long. So it's always good to have a spare set if you can find them. All right, let's check out some more stuff. Here we go, another kind of rare Volvo part. This is actually a tail light from a 960 wagon. The cool thing about these is they're clear markers in the middle and red on the outside, whereas the normal taillights, as you guys would have known, had a amber signal right here, or sorry, right here. These are just a little more clean looking. They look a bit better compared to the other taillights, just, you know, less colors going on, a little more simple. So I'm actually saving these for the blue wagon. I'm gonna be putting them in this car. All right, we got some more rare Volvo parts. So this is my bucket of aftermarket and factory Volvo camshafts. So if I remember correctly, I got 2 B cams, an A cam, a slotted K cam, actually sitting in one of those boxes. The slotted K cam is really the best cam that came from Volvo, from the factory, in my opinion. I think it's a really sweet ass cam. You know, it's really good for everything. I'm actually running a Volvo K-Cam in this car, and if you guys saw the video a couple videos back, we changed it out to a KLR T3 cam, and the K-Cam actually performed better than the T3 cam. So I think it's a really good all-around cam for these engines if you're trying to make anywhere from 200 to 400 wheel horsepower. Another rare Volvo part, guys. This is a factory cherry turbo. Actually, no, this is an IPD brace. So back in the day, I think IPD was in cahoots with Cherry Turbo or another one of these brands, and they started producing these strut tower braces. So I actually have this one. Obviously it's paint matched to the wagon here. The only reason I'm not running it on the wagon right now is because the exhaust sits like right below it, and I didn't want the paint to start melting and that kind of thing, so I haven't put it back on. But you guys may have seen just a couple seconds ago that I now heat wrapped the downpipe as well as put a turbo blanket on the turbo. So I got an Amazon heat blanket for the turbo. It doesn't fit the greatest, but it's gonna do the job. And then we heat wrap the downpipe so we don't get that crazy heat soak all over the engine bay. With the downpipe up there, heat was just going everywhere, and my hood, literally after ripping on the car, would be scorching hot and you could barely touch it. So I got a fresh paint job thanks to my buddy Willis. He actually painted this hood, color matched it to the car for me. And I definitely don't want to mess this paint job up. So yeah, heat wrap for the win. Here's another rare Volvo part. This is actually a manual pedal set for a hydraulic clutch. I've been keeping this around. I actually just sold my other set of these a couple days ago, but I've been keeping this one around just in case I want to do another manual swap on a Volvo eventually. Who knows, maybe that gold wagon. You know, I'm always acquiring new Volvos, so I think one day it's just good to keep an extra set of manual transmission pedals around, because you never know when you're going to want to swap a good trusty automatic car to a manual and make it more fun and enjoyable. So yeah, we'll be keeping those around. Unfortunately, these are not for sale. And then I would say, guys, the final like rare Volvo part that I can see around my garage here before we head out is the 140 grill on the gold car. So as you guys know, this car, when I got it, used to have the normal 740 front end. And I thought I would do something a little bit different on this car. Over the last 10 years doing this Volvo stuff, I've never really done like a front end swap. And I always thought that the front end of the 740, just the shape and the boxiness of it, really looked like a muscle car. So I figured if I could get a grille that had 2 circle headlights and some simple kind of design in the middle, it would look kind of like a mini muscle car. And I'm pretty happy with the outcome of it. You guys might actually notice that just recently I bought some European corner markers, painted them gold, not color matched by any means, but close enough, we'll say, just to fill in, because you guys remember I had the grille on, but this was all open here, so it didn't really look complete. And I don't know, I think it looks pretty cool. It's not really perfect, but it looks pretty sweet. And this car is just a drift seat time car, so it's not perfect anyways. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Let's just pop the hood. There's got to be a couple more rare Volvo things in this thing. So yeah, like I said, I got another one of these cherry turbo braces on the gold car here. Yeah, I don't know if they're really worthwhile or if they actually do a whole lot. I know the 740 chassis is already pretty stiff, but you know, it looks dope. When you pop the hood, it looks more aftermarket and modified, so that's cool. Oh, another rare part, guys. This is actually an oil cap from an old B20 Volvo engine. So the B20 Volvo engines, they would bleed the PCV from the oil cap. So if you run one of these on a B230 motor with the factory PCV system, then you just have 2 places where the crankcase pressure can bleed from, and you're just that much less likely to be blowing out seals and you know, have issues with oil consumption and that kind of thing. So that's pretty much a wrap up of today's video, guys. But one thing I want to mention before I end the video here is that this gold car, if you guys watched the last video, we actually messed the motor up. So as you saw in the last video, I was losing oil pressure, or at least, you know, the oil pressure light was going off on left-hand turns. I really wanted to drift that night and I was having so much fun. I just kept drifting it while the oil light was going on, which was a very, very bad idea. When I drained the oil on this engine after that drift event, there was so much metal in the oil that it looked like I was draining out silver paint basically from the oil pan. So not good. Somehow the engine isn't knocking yet. We haven't gotten rod knock. The engine still runs fine and it still pulls like it did before. But I know those main bearings are, you know, 1 track event away from completely locking up this motor. And this motor is definitely what we could call hurt right now. So I need to ask you guys what you think I should do. So I've been pondering this over the last week or two, what I should do. You know, if we're gonna be pulling the motor out and swapping something else in there, I don't really wanna do the same setup because I was a little bit underwhelmed with the setup. It was supposed to make like 180 wheel horsepower. We only made about 155. It was really fun, but if I'm gonna go through the work of pulling the motor out and getting a retune and stuff, I think I should try something a little bit different. This car is just a seat time car, but it would be nice to be able to daily drive it or go on longer distance drives if I wanted to in it. And with this cam and head setup and the crazy wild, you know, setup that is going on here, it gets absolutely terrible fuel economy. I can literally drive maybe 200 kilometers to a whole tank of fuel in this car. So I'll be honest, I got a squirter turbo motor sitting over there in the garage. Part of me is really thinking it would be kind of nice to just swap a turbo motor in there with like a T3, T4 eBay turbo on it, make a healthy, strong 250 to 300 wheel horsepower, and just have a reliable, fast, really good drifting car. Or if I should kind of step back and stick with the non-turbo thing that I was going for this car, I was thinking maybe to keep it on the cheap, I could find a Penta bottom end that already had the 2.5 liter crankshaft with the higher compression pistons in it. I could slap my head on it and maybe it would end up making 170, 180 wheel horsepower. You know, maybe we could change the intake manifold. I could try to find something different as far as the intake goes. Just let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'm really leaning towards just slapping a turbo motor in it because it would be good on fuel, it would have good drivability, it would make a ton of power, and if I didn't put too big of a turbo on it, it would actually be quite responsive and fun to drive still. So yeah, I'm at a bit of a cross with that, but I know the NA stuff is just, it's got more soul to it, it's got more character, you know? And that's what I wanted for the kind of character of this car. But I'm not really too sure anymore. So part of me is leaning towards just having a simple fuel efficient turbo car, but I also really like the non-turbo thing because it's cool. So anyways guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching the video, checking out all this rare Volvo parts. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any rare Volvo parts that you came across that are just like mind-blowing. You know, this is kind of what I could come up with over the last like 10 years being into these cars. Before I go guys, make sure to check out the Drifts and Lifts store. We have some new designs on the store right now. We got our Swed Sleds Car Club design, really sweet. As you guys know, we put Swed Sleds under the hoods of all of our drift Volvos, and it's kind of becoming like a, it's just kind of like a trend now, you know? Swed Sleds Car Club, Swedish sleds. You know, and it's just kind of catchy. I've just been rocking it for a while. I think it's cool. So anyways, like and subscribe for sweaty Volvo butt cheeks. Peace out.